Uh-oh.
Within arm's reach for me to be in a fight with Serrano now. I've defended the WBC belt twice now. We're definitely looking at potential unification fights with Nina Meinke.
Well, it's not really a Sky Nicolson interview without a token reference to an Amanda Serrano fight that in all likelihood won't happen, as Amanda's already so accomplished and has bigger fish to fry. Sky just isn't on her radar. So let's not bog down the conversation with the same old, same old. What interested me in Sky's interview, what interested me in what she said, is that they're moving to face newly crowned IBF champion Nina Meinke of Germany. Nina, very experienced fighter who has campaigned anywhere in between lightweight and featherweight. She's IBF featherweight champion now, alongside Sky Nicolson, sporting a professional record of 19 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 4 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 22 professional bouts. That was many years ago at the hands of Katie Taylor when Katie first went pro up there at lightweight. Nina's been around a long time. She's won some fights, she's lost some fights, fought some champions. She's a champion herself now, though not that active this particular calendar year. I think she fought something like 3 times last year, but she only fought once this one. Quality over quantity this year, as this was the year she saw herself become a full-fledged world champion against a formidable foe, a formidable opponent, multi-weight champion Daniela Bermudez, one of the best women boxers the country of Argentina has ever produced. That's who Nina had to go through to win that vacant IBF title. Now she's got it. Sky wants it. Sky wants to become this division's unified champion, a very productive fighter, having fought 4 times last year and 3 times this one. Resume's starting to round out, starting to look real nice. Went over an unbeaten Tania Alvarez, unbeaten Raven Chapman, went over a former champion in Sarah Mahfoud, stopped Lucy Wildheart, who had never been stopped. It's looking good. Real good. So she's amassing experience, she's garnering a profile, she's the most recognizable featherweight, second only to Amanda Serrano, and she would be the betting favorite over most other featherweights, Nina Meinke included. It's time to unify. To take out the competition, but not just unify and take out the competition. I think Sky is due for a homecoming fight. So many of Matchroom's other fighters have gotten homecoming fights. Regis Prograis got one in his first fight under the banner. Boots got one, he got 2. 2 in Philly. Subriel Matias got one in Puerto Rico, even though it didn't go according to script. Sky has been with Matchroom longer than those fighters have. Devin got a homecoming fight. Katie Taylor got a homecoming fight. I think it's time for Sky to get a homecoming fight. I think it's time for Sky to return to her native Australia and grace her adoring public with a display of her boxing skill, her boxing acumen, opposite the ring, another champion like herself in Nina Meinke. I think that would be ideal for the coming calendar year. Think about all the places that Sky Nicolson has already fought. In the United Kingdom, in the United States, south of the border, in Mexico, and Saudi. Australia should be next. I think that would be ideal. Now, as far as a fight with Nina Meinke, Sky would definitely be the betting favorite going in, and at first glance, I think Sky wins wide. I think she would do to Nina what she did to Sarah Mahfoud, what she's been doing to everybody, comfortably outpointing them on the good foot, on her toes, boxing from the outside, using her height, her length, her mobility, speed, just cruising, pot shot and doing what she does. Sky's got swagger. Sky's got charisma, which seems to make up for her less than fan-friendly style. Pure boxers, they've got it rough.
Sugarfoot fighters, outside cutie pies.
It's the least entertaining base style of all the base styles. Usually, pure boxers are described as boring, scared to engage.
You know, like what they say about Shakur.
So here you have Sky Nicolson, who's got the same base style, the same methodology as a Shakur Stevenson, but they don't attack her as much. She's been very dominant, and I've no doubts her swagger, her aesthetic, her bubbling personality is what makes up for that base style.
She's got Nina in her crosshairs.
I think she can get her. I mean, Nina Meinke is the same one who was willing to fight Amanda Serrano in Puerto Rico. If you're willing to fight Amanda, you're going to be willing to fight Sky.
What happened to her fighting Amanda?
Well, Amanda became injured right before the fight, and she had to pull out. But, Nina was going to go through with it. She was going to fight her, knowing she was widely favored to lose. Nina the Brave is her nickname, and brave is right. So if she was willing to fight Amanda in Amanda's neck of the woods, I think she'd be willing to fight Sky in Sky's neck of the woods in Australia.
I don't think Nina is intimidated by Sky.
And I think they'll make it in the coming calendar year. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, ahead of this weekend's spectacle, Jake Paul has declared that he will once again call out Canelo Alvarez after the Mike Tyson fight. This moment will prove that I'm the face of boxing, the largest attraction. Me and Canelo at 200 pounds for the Cruiserweight World title is the biggest fight. It makes so much sense. Canelo is on his way out. He's gonna want a payday. And I want to show the world that he's all the shit I've been talking about. Beating Canelo is actually true. I will have the biggest upset in the sport of boxing. We will fight to really see who is the face. Now, most actual boxing fans don't view what Jake Paul is doing as something within the sport of boxing.
Sport. What is sport? So much as sport entertainment, not dissimilar from the WWE.
Or the Harlem Globetrotters. That's the lens that some people view Jake Paul's fights in. It's entertainment, it's a spectacle. No more, no less, and you take it for what it is. Some have gone as far as saying that they think his fights are scripted.
That doesn't mean it's true. That's just something I've seen people say.
So seeing that that's the perception so many people have of Jake, and then seeing what he says, you take whatever he says with a pinch of salt, because it's all really just promotion. Promotion for this event and the next one. One thing he said that's true.
That might be true. Is that Canelo's on his way out.
He's been there and done that in so many divisions, sold so many pay-per-views, made so much money. He even made history in the sport more than once, Mexico's first undisputed champion.
And the very first undisputed champion, the inaugural undisputed champion at super middleweight.
There just isn't that much left in boxing to keep Canelo Alvarez fighting, to keep him competing. There are not really that many fights out there. Aside from a Crawford fight or a Benavidez fight, neither of which he seemed all that interested in. I saw veteran boxing scribe Ryan O'Hara say, when Canelo retires, the sport will be in serious trouble if it isn't already.
Doom and gloom.
Though I wouldn't go that far, it is true that when Canelo retires, and I feel that that retirement is nearing, there will be big shoes left to fill, and it will be difficult for someone to step in and fill them and generate the money and the interest, the fanfare that Canelo Alvarez generated. But this reminds me of the period that followed Muhammad Ali's retirement.
I was there.
So obviously, Muhammad Ali, with the fights that he had, the Sonny Liston fights, the Joe Frazier fights, the George Foreman fight, everything in between.
Right.
When he finally retired and called it a career, because he had to.
He left big shoes to fill.
The period that followed, where Larry Holmes has the run of the heavyweight division. Larry Holmes was not to the sport of boxing what Muhammad Ali was. There was sort of a dry period after Muhammad left, a dry spell, a pocket in between the Ali era and what eventually became the Tyson era.
Mike Tyson, who's fighting this weekend.
In between those two eras, that's where Larry Holmes has his rise to power, his ascent to the upper echelon of the heavyweight division, and you'll often hear it said by many a historian that Larry Holmes was an underappreciated heavyweight. Underrated, but that's because of the big shoes left to fill by Muhammad Ali.
You know that he beat Ali, and a lot of people never forgave him for it. The version of Ali that he fought.
He wasn't who he used to be. He wasn't who and what he was. And some people, they didn't like Larry for that. A lot of other people didn't like Larry because he was such an outspoken fighter.
Focus.
The period in between when Ali retires and Mike Tyson emerges, it was sort of a dry period, a more quiet period.
That's what will happen when Canelo retires. There will be a dry period, a more quiet period, but someone else will come along because someone else always does.
In response to Ryan O'Hara's resident doom and gloom at the prospect of Canelo retiring and the current state of boxing, he thinks it's in trouble, but on the world stage, boxing is bigger than it's ever been. UK boxing, Australian boxing, Japanese boxing, so maybe what he's talking about is more specific to the American market where Canelo is based out of.
Jake Paul wants to fight him.
Back to Jake and his expressed desire to share the ring with Canelo Alvarez. Well, if Jake gets knocked out this weekend, that kills that.
He's fighting a 58-year-old Mike Tyson.
So can a 58-year-old Mike Tyson still knock people out, being honest with you? I wouldn't want to find out. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of the answer to that question. But Jake will be this Friday.
If Mike knocks Jake out, that's going to kill all that Canelo Alvarez talk. But if he doesn't, and he loses, or he doesn't lose, but the fight is scored a draw,
that would keep the Canelo Alvarez talk, the Canelo Alvarez fight alive. And I don't rule it out because, like I said, Canelo is nearing the end.
it's almost over.
Over 60 fights, so many accomplishments, so many accolades, so much money. What else is there left for him to do?
A circus fight.
A circus fight for a ridiculous amount of money. It's not that I'm supporting it. It's not that I'm endorsing it. It's just common sense. Jake Paul has a lot of followers and a lot of fans and a lot of people that keep up with what he does, and so does Canelo. If you combined that,
It's huge.
whether you like it or not, because of Jake's fans, because of Canelo's fans. Jake's fans just want to watch him do whatever he's doing. And Canelo's fans, in this situation, would relish the opportunity to see him knock out this party crasher, this intruder in the sport of boxing, because that's how they look at Jake.
You can sell it.
If you find Jake Paul's rhetoric annoying, then you've taken the bait. He's doing his job. He's done it. He's promoted himself to a point where you wouldn't mind seeing Canelo share the ring with him so that Canelo can shut him up, so that Canelo can knock him out. Well, that's what he's after. That's what he wants. The Canelo fight.
He's a smart kid and a very good promoter.
This weekend's fight is being brought to us by Netflix and what are their very deep pockets. If anybody can satisfy the financial demands of a Canelo Alvarez, they can. Them and their over 200 million subscribers around the world.
Canelo goes wherever he wants to go. So if he has to go to Netflix,
That is, if Netflix can prepare a package for him, and I'm fairly confident that they can.
the kind of money he would want to fight a novice.
Think about how much money they could offer him, and think about what the risks are, rather, what the risks aren't. Jake Paul is no risk to Canelo Alvarez, so you get a high reward for a low risk.
Perfect.
For a fighter in the twilight years of his career who still reigns as a champion today, it's the ideal scenario and the ideal parting gift from Canelo to the fans. Here you have this gate crasher, this party crasher, and Jake Paul intruding on our sport, and I'm gonna knock him out.
I'm going to get rid of him. I'm going to take out the trash. And I'm going to make an obscene amount of money while you watch me do it.
I don't rule it out. Canelo versus Jake Paul? Nope, I don't rule it out. More conventional boxing news, back down to the super middleweight division. Unbeaten up-and-comer Diego Pacheco may be facing Trevor McCumby next year, January 25th. WBO #1 ranked Diego Pacheco is negotiating a fight with Trevor McCumby for January 25th at the Cosmopolitan in Vegas. McCumby dropped Caleb Plant when they fought on the Canelo versus Berlanga undercard. Andy Cruz is expected to box on that show as well.
We talked about this fight. We also talked about an order that just came down from the IBF ordering Diego to face Christian Mbilli. I don't think he's going to go that route. I don't think that fight is going to happen. This is the one I think they're going to get over the line.
The McCumby fight, what will service as a common opponent between Diego Pacheco and former champion Caleb Plant, who's still on the PBC side of things with very little to do.
I think he's still holding out for a Jermall Charlo fight. He already smacked the taste out of that guy's mouth. I don't know what else there is left to do.
But you figure that If Diego goes in there with Trevor, and he makes short work of Trevor, does it better, does it easier than Caleb Plant did, a who did it better conversation will ensue, and that has all the makings of a potential fight between Diego Pacheco and Caleb Plant, a former champion, a guy who's been in there with Anthony Durrell and David Benavidez and Canelo.
Jose Uzcategui.
It's the kind of name that Diego Pacheco needs on his CV, that acid test, that litmus test, facing a former champion en route to becoming one yourself.
I like the idea of Diego Pacheco versus Caleb Plant.
When you look across that super middleweight landscape and look at the proliferation of talent that is there, without bogging down the conversation with endless mentions of Canelo Alvarez, who is still a unified champion at this weight and very much still is the man to beat at 168, but if you don't get all caught up in that tired old conversation, that same old conversation, super middleweight is very exciting. The potentiality of what fights can be made there. You have Mbilli, Munguia, Melenkuziev, McCumby, Pacheco,
Plant,
Berlanga, and what other fighters over time may move up in weight from, say, middleweight up to super middleweight. It's very exciting.
It can be.
But the promoters, the managers, and their fighters cannot lose sight of one thing. One thing that is pivotal, critical to this sport's survival. The somebodies have to fight the other somebodies. It's really not enough to just pick up an alphabet title and become an island. That if Canelo Alvarez retired tomorrow and vacated all the belts he holds,
and each one went to one of these guys,
it's good. It's a part of the process, but it's not all of it. The somebodies have to fight the other somebodies. The champions have to fight the champions.
These guys gotta fight.
If it feels like there's a lull, a lag in the sport right now, it's because these guys aren't trying hard enough to capture our imaginations with fights that intrigue us and excite us.
They're not shaking things up.
It's predictable what they're doing, and you don't want that. Everybody just staying on their respective side of the street, playing it safe and not taking chances. That's not good for the health of the division or the sport. People get bored, and this is supposed to be entertainment. We're supposed to be entertained.
They've got to fight.
All the somebodies at the weight. Otherwise, they're just all nobodies.
I like Pacheco versus McCumby because it services as a precursor to Pacheco versus Plant.
Now, Caleb Plant may stay on the PBC side of things a while longer, waiting for a Jermall Charlo fight, and he might get it, and he might win. But after that, then what?
There is not a lot going on over there. At some point, you might have to go somewhere else for your next big fight.
Unless you're happy to collect dust on the shelf, waiting for Al and the PBC to sort you out.
Look at how long it took them to get him that McCumby fight.
They've got to fight. They all have to fight. And that's the bottom line. Promotional politics hurt the sport and its marketability. It's the opposite of what you want and the opposite of what everybody needs. Everybody's got to fight.